Your brother will speak at the funeral. He actually made something of himself. Mom said flatly, not even looking at me as she arranged flower catalogs across Dad's hospital bed, now stripped of its sheets. You can do a reading, I suppose. Something short. My children, Sophia, 15, and Marcus, 12, watched me nod and say okay, their eyes filled with the protective fury only kids feel when watching their parent be dismissed. But why, 3 days later at the service, did my brother Derek thank the anonymous donors whose generosity funded 3 years of Dad's experimental treatment? And why was Mom about to discover that her disappointment had been keeping her husband alive all along? The burial was quiet, dignified, exactly what Dad would have wanted. Afterward, the family gathered at Mom's house. Derek held court in the living room, accepting condolences with the gravitas of the successful surgeon he'd become. Mom orbited around him like a proud satellite, introducing him to distant relatives as my son, the doctor. I waited until the crowd thinned. Mom, I need to give you something. She barely glanced at me. Can it wait, Audrey? I'm exhausted. No, it can't. I handed her the folder, 3 years of documentation, organized chronologically, complete with receipts, wire transfers, and correspondence with Duke University Medical Center. She opened it. Read the first page. Her hands started shaking. This is impossible. It's not. Every dollar of Dad's treatment, the experimental therapy, the clinical trial fees, the specialists, the private nurses, came from me. I kept my voice steady. I'm the anonymous donor Derek just thanked from the pulpit. The folder fell from her hands, papers scattering across the floor like leaves. You don't have this kind of money. You're a what, Mom? A disappointment? A failure? The daughter who didn't make anything of herself. She had no answer. I'd been the wrong child from birth. The Whitfield family valued achievement in very specific forms. Prestigious degrees, impressive job titles, visible success that could be discussed at dinner parties and country club gatherings. Derek had delivered all of it. Harvard undergrad, Johns Hopkins Medical School, surgical residency at Mass General, now a renowned cardiothoracic surgeon whose name appeared in medical journals and society pages alike. I'd taken a different path. I'd dropped out of college at 20 to help a friend start a software company. No degree. No prestige. Just long hours in a cramped office, building something from nothing while my family shook their heads in disappointment. She's throwing her life away, Mom told relatives at every opportunity. Such wasted potential, Dad would add, though with less venom. She'll regret it when Derek's a success and she's still working in that garage, Mom predicted. The garage company was called NextGen Analytics. We sold it to Microsoft when I was 28 for $340 million. My share, as co-founder and CTO, was $127 million after taxes. I never told my family. The money changed my circumstances, but not my relationship with my parents. I'd learned by then that their approval was a currency I'd never earn, regardless of my actual achievements. They measured success by metrics that didn't include entrepreneurship, risk-taking, or building something new. Derek was a doctor. I was a dropout. That equation would never balance in their minds. So I stopped trying. I invested wisely, lived modestly, and found fulfillment in raising my children with values different from the ones I'd been raised with. Sophia and Marcus knew about the money. I believed in honesty with my kids, but they also understood privacy. We didn't flaunt wealth. We didn't need external validation. And when Dad got sick, I had the resources to help without anyone knowing. The diagnosis came 4 years ago, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The prognosis was brutal. Most patients survived less than a year. But there was hope, an experimental treatment program at Duke that had shown remarkable results in clinical trials. The catch was that it cost over $800,000 for the full course of therapy, wasn't covered by insurance, and had a waiting list of patients whose families could afford to pay. Mom and Derek discussed the situation like I wasn't in the room. We can't afford this, Mom said. Medicare covers standard treatment. Standard treatment gives him 6 months, Derek countered. The Duke program could give him years. Where would we get $800,000? I don't know. Fundraising? A mortgage? I can contribute something, but my malpractice insurance and student loans. They never asked me. They assumed I had nothing to offer. The dropout daughter with her computer job couldn't possibly help with a financial crisis of this magnitude. That night, I called Duke directly. I'd like to fund my father's treatment anonymously, I told the financial coordinator. Full program, whatever it costs, plus any additional therapies the doctors recommend. The family should be told there's a donor, but not who. That's very generous, ma'am. May I ask why the anonymity? Because my father needs to focus on getting better, not on family dynamics. And my mother needs to believe this is a miracle, not a gift from the daughter she's dismissed her entire life. The coordinator was quiet for a moment. I understand. We'll make the arrangements. Dad lived 3 more years. The treatment worked better than anyone expected. The cancer retreated, stabilized, gave him time he never should have had. He saw Sophia start high school. He watched Marcus win his first soccer championship. He had 3 Christmases, 3 birthdays, 3 years of moments that the original prognosis had denied him. Mom credited God, fate, and the mysterious generosity of strangers. Derek credited the Duke medical team and the power of cutting-edge research. Dad credited pure luck. None of them knew they were eating at my table every holiday, accepting gifts from my children, and tolerating my presence at family gatherings while I silently paid for every moment of extended time. I watched Derek give interviews about his father's miraculous recovery. I listened to Mom tell friends about the anonymous angels who saved my husband. I sat in their living room while they discussed whether the donor might be a wealthy patient of Derek's, or perhaps a pharmaceutical company testing their generosity. I said nothing, because the point was never credit. The point was keeping my father alive. The end came quickly when it finally arrived. The cancer returned, aggressive and untreatable, spreading too fast for any intervention. Dad had 2 weeks from recurrence to death, enough time to say goodbye, not enough to fight. I was at his bedside when he took his last breath. Mom was there too, and Derek. For one moment, we were just a family losing someone we loved, stripped of our roles and resentments. Then Dad was gone and everything resumed. The funeral planning exposed every fault line. Mom took charge immediately, making decisions without consultation, assigning roles based on her hierarchy of worthiness. Derek would speak because he'd made something of himself. I could do a reading, something short, easily overlooked. My children were furious. "This is so unfair," Sophia whispered to me at the funeral home. "You've done everything for Grandpa, and she treats you like you're nothing." "It's okay, sweetheart." "It's not okay. She should know the truth." "Maybe, but not today. Today we honor your grandfather. The truth can wait." Marcus squeezed my hand. "You're a better person than I'd be, Mom." I smiled, though it hurt. "I'm just tired, baby. Tired of fighting for something I was never going to win." But watching Derek thank anonymous donors from the pulpit, watching Mom beam with pride at her successful son, while I sat invisible in the 3rd row, something shifted. I didn't need their approval, but I was done letting their ignorance shape the narrative. The folder contained everything. 3 years of wire transfers totaling $1.2 million. Correspondence with Duke's financial office. Thank you notes from the research team. Documentation of every experimental therapy, every specialist consultation, every private nurse. All funded by the daughter who'd supposedly never made anything of herself. Mom read through the papers with trembling hands, her face cycling through disbelief, confusion, and something that looked almost like grief. "I don't understand," she finally said. "Where did you get this money?" "I sold my company 8 years ago. The one you called a waste of time. The one you were embarrassed to mention at parties." "What company?" "You never." "Next-Gen Analytics. We developed data processing algorithms that Microsoft wanted badly enough to pay $340 million for." I watched her process the number. My share was $127 million. I've lived quietly because I prefer it that way. But I've also had the resources to help my family when it mattered. Derek had joined us, drawn by the tension. He looked over Mom's shoulder at the documents. "You paid for all of this?" "The Duke treatment. Every dollar. For 3 years. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have accepted it? Would Mom have allowed Dad to be saved by her failure of a daughter?" I shook my head. "You needed to believe it was a miracle. You needed the story to fit your understanding of who succeeds and who doesn't in this family." Mom's tears fell onto the papers, smearing the ink. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I know you didn't. That's the point." I crouched beside her, gentler now. "You spent my whole life measuring me against standards I never agreed to. Derek was the success. I was the disappointment. But while you were keeping score, I was building a life that allowed me to save Dad's. 3 extra years, Mom. Every soccer game Marcus played for Grandpa. Every graduation photo with Sophia. Every Christmas morning. That came from the daughter who never made anything of herself. The silence stretched. Derek spoke first. Audrey, I'm sorry. I had no idea. I know. I thanked anonymous donors in my eulogy. I should have thanked you. It doesn't matter. Dad knew at some level. In his last week, he told me he was grateful for every extra day. He didn't know where the money came from, but he knew it was a gift. That's enough. Mom was still crying, still holding the papers, still trying to reconcile the daughter she'd dismissed with the woman who'd been quietly keeping her husband alive. I've been so wrong about you, she said. For your whole life. Yes. Can you forgive me? I considered the question. The decades of dismissal. The passive cruelty of low expectations. The way she'd lit up around Derek and dimmed around me, as if my presence drained rather than contributed. I can try, I said finally. But I need you to understand something. My forgiveness doesn't validate how you treated me. I succeeded despite your doubts, not because of them. I built something remarkable while you were convinced I was failing. And I used that success to give you 3 more years with the man you loved. I know. I'm not asking for gratitude. I'm asking for acknowledgement. See me, Mom. Not the disappointment you imagined. Me. She reached for my hand, the first time she'd initiated contact in years. I see you, she whispered. I finally see you. The aftermath was complicated. Mom and I began the long work of rebuilding a relationship that had been broken since childhood. It wasn't easy. 30 years of patterns don't dissolve overnight. But she was trying, genuinely trying, to understand the daughter she'd never bothered to know. Derek and I found an unexpected peace. Without the pressure of family competition, we discovered we actually liked each other. He was arrogant, but he was also brilliant and unexpectedly funny. We had dinner monthly now, comparing notes on our very different lives. My children watched all of it. The revelation, the reconciliation, the slow process of healing. Mom, Sophia asked me one evening, why did you keep it secret for so long? You could have told them years ago. Because it wasn't about them. It was about your grandfather. Keeping him alive, giving him time. Whether my family appreciated me didn't matter. What mattered was that he got 3 more years. But they treated you terribly. They did. And now they have to live with knowing what they missed. I smiled. The folder wasn't revenge, sweetheart. It was just truth. They'd been telling themselves a story about who I was, and the story was wrong. I just finally gave them the accurate version. And now we see if they can write a new one. Dad's grave is beautiful in autumn. I visit every month, bringing flowers, sitting on the bench nearby, talking to him about the life he never knew I'd built. You'd be proud, I think, I told him last week. Sophia's applying to colleges. Marcus made varsity. And Mom actually called to ask about my work. Can you imagine? 40 years of ignoring my career, and now she wants to understand what I did. The wind rustled the leaves. I chose to hear it as approval. I miss you, Dad, but I'm grateful for the extra time. Every day of it. I placed the flowers at his headstone and walked back to my car, where Sophia waited with coffee and conversation about her own dreams. She wasn't the child who'd made something of herself in anyone else's terms. She was becoming someone remarkable on her own terms. Just like her mother. They chose Derek because success looked like degrees and titles and visible achievement. They dismissed me because my path didn't match their expectations. But while they were measuring worth by their narrow standards, I was building something they couldn't see, and using it to keep the father they thought they were losing. 3 years. $1.2 million.